Hello, Miranda Darrow here. I have a whole bunch of book recommendations for women's fiction novels or book club fiction that I've read in the last 2 years. If you haven't already caught my video that I posted last week about what is women's fiction genre, what are its hallmarks, what are some of its tropes, what are the subcategories of it, and what are some recommendations for writing it, check that out on my channel. And so now, without further ado, let's get to it. Here's a bunch of book recommendations for women's fiction novels that I've read. I've grouped these into subcategories of the genre. The first up is contemporary chick lit community-based fiction. And the first recommendation is Society of Shame by Jane Roper. It's a fictional take on John Ronson's So You've Been Publicly Shamed, which was a nonfiction book, with a support group and rehab for people who've ended up on the wrong side of a PR situation. Satire, humor, and definitely upmarket. Then there's Tired Ladies Take a Stand by Gretchen Anthony. Relatable in the mommy needs wine category of mom stereotyping, but takes a swipe at those cultural norms. We've also got Salthouse Place by Jamie Lee Song, a contemporary with a split timeline and a mysterious disappearance of a childhood friend. What We Never Say by Paulette Stout features dual POV with female and male leads tackling a workplace issue that he's reluctant to bring into the light. This is an example where the main character in a novel, but the biggest growth arc is actually the male lead. Then we have The Startup Wife by Tamina Anam about women in STEM getting shoved aside in your own damn company while people want to talk to the men, and there's just so much patriarchy in this tech startup universe. And Minor Dramas and Other Catastrophes by Kathleen West, Minnesota's moms on the verge of a nervous breakdown. This author has 3 books, and they're all great, but my favorite so far is the first, with a high school theater mom just trying to make sure that everything is perfect to her standards. And finally in this category, Family Ties, Family Lies by Jacqueline Bolden. A reporter returns home to care for her aging mother and finds family secrets that her inquisitive nature just can't leave alone. Oh wait, just kidding, one more. The Second Ending by Michelle Hoffman. With contestants in a reality TV show with dueling piano players. I recommended this book to my piano teacher. All right, next category, historical. And we're going to start with The Women by Kristen Hanna, because I don't think you could make a list of women's fiction without Kristen Hanna. All of her novels are so good, and this one was so overdue, with a look at the women who went to war in Vietnam and the disrespect that they got as their reward. Next up, Stateless by Elizabeth Wayne, a murder mystery set in 1937 during a multinational air race, with the only female pilot trying to figure out who's taking out our competition, and does it have anything to do with what's going on in Germany? Next, a true account, Hannah Missouri's Sojourn Among the Pirates, written by herself by Catherine Howe. This is a dual timeline of a found diary of a woman living with pirates and a woman historian working to authenticate it in 1930 while battling the patriarchy. And then, did you hear about Kitty Carr by Crystal Smith Paul? This could also fall into family saga with multi-generational impact of racism and a young woman passing in old Hollywood. And Black Cake by Charmaine Wilkerson. This one was made into a streaming service miniseries, with Eleanor's adult children realizing that they didn't really know her after her death when they start finding out where she came from and what she left behind when she fled. This leads us to family drama and saga, which is another subcategory of women's fiction. All They Ask For Is Everything by Hadley Leggett is a contemporary family saga, and I love this. I could really empathize with all 3 women who are all POV characters, and they were all vying to take custody of 2 young girls who get pulled into the foster care system. One Night in Savannah by Tara Shelton Harris has family secrets and the cost of living with lies. The Bullet Swallower by Elizabeth Gonzalez James has generations overlapping with a past mystery and its reverberations on the present generations of the family. Mother Doll by Katya Apakina is generational trauma going back to the Russian Revolution, including a psychic medium speaking to a current-day character's great-great-grandmother who seems to know about the current-day character's pregnancy. And The Kindest Lie by Nancy Johnson, which I would consider recent historical because it's set in 2008 with racial tensions in a small Midwest town. Ooh, what was happening at that time? And Sea Change by Gina Chung, one of 2 books prominently featuring an octopus that I read. The other was Remarkably Bright Creatures by Shelby Van Pelt, which was magical realism that could probably also fit on this list of women's fiction titles. But Sea Change was more focused on the life of a woman in her 30s trying to reconcile how her life ended up this way and what happened with her family. Our next subgenre of women's fiction is romantic women's fiction. So let's start with Love Lettering by Kate Clayborn. That's sitting somewhere between romance and women's fiction, and it's welcome at both parties. My favorite of hers is Love Letters, with its focus on printing and fonts. And I started seeing fonts everywhere when I read this, but I do like all her books. How about Happy Place by Emily Henry? This list would hardly be complete without including Emily Henry, whose adult romantic women's fiction end up as most read books lists every summer, including this year's Funny Story and recently Book Lovers, Beach Read, People We Meet on Vacation. But I remember her from her YA romantic fiction, The Love That Split the World. How about Hello Stranger by Catherine Senner? I love Catherine Senner. All of her stories, auto-buy for me. This one, like The Bodyguard, is more women's fiction than romance because it's really about the main character's growth arc and journey, but romance fans will not be disappointed. Ooh, let's switch genre. Twisty domestic suspense. I recently read The Teacher by Frida McFadden. It's a domestic suspense about romantic relationships gone bad. I read a lot of these books, so I couldn't include all of them, but these are very recent and memorable. When I tackle the suspense genre later, I'll have a bigger list with decent overlap with this category because a lot of these could fall into both. How about More Than You'll Ever Know by Katie Gutierrez? It's a current day woman with baggage of her own starts investigating a murder mystery from 1986 and the woman in the middle of a deadly love triangle. The Last Thing He Told Me by Laura Dave is a mystery thriller with a woman left trying to figure out who her now missing husband of 1 year really is, while she's the only person left who's able to care for her stepdaughter. Now we have some less twisty mysteries, like Vera Wong's Unsolicited Advice for Murderers by Jessie Q. Sutano. A 60-year-old tea shop owner inserts herself into a murder investigation where the murder and the tea are cozy and funny. Less funny, but also not too thrillery, is The Leftover Woman by Jean Kwok, a family drama with a central mystery about a woman fleeing China and her controlling husband. She goes to the United States in search of her daughter, who was given away due to China's one-child policy. And then The Maid by Nita Prose. This is more of a standard murder mystery whodunit featuring a grieving young woman trying to navigate the world after the death of her beloved Gran, who had helped her read the social cues that she can't decipher. All right, switching subgenre again. Let's talk about speculative fiction. I'm going to go with The Heart Goes Last because I have to have Margaret Atwood on this list. Most of her stories in the last 15 years have been short stories, and there have been some really good ones, including The Dead Hand Still Loves You from the Stone Mattress collection, and My Evil Mother that I found on Audible. Those are great short stories, but I'm including The Heart Goes Last, even though it's 2013, as it's an original dystopia that reminded me of Handmaid's Tale, but with more equal opportunities for the world to be terrible. At Sea by Emma Fedor is a woman who falls in love with a man who tells her he can breathe underwater. Is he part of a secret government operation or something else? She tries to figure out, especially when he disappears with their young child. And The Minuscule Mansion of Myra Malone by Audrey Burgess. There's a magical tiny house that has an odd relationship to a real house. Just go with it. Speaking of houses, there's a whole category of gothic haunted houses, including The Stranger Upstairs by Lisa M. Martin. An influencer trying to repair her reputation buys a murder house as a fixer-upper project. What could possibly go wrong? Mexican Gothic by Silvia Moreno Garcia. I love her books, including her atmospheric thriller, Untamed Shore, but this one definitely falls into the spooky house category. And When No One Is Watching by Alyssa Cole, a neighborhood gentrification suspense novel. Alyssa Cole is one of several successful romance authors getting into other genre. I love Cole's other books, and this reminds me of Darby Kane's career shift, the same with Tammy Hogue, who successfully pivoted from romance to crime and suspense stories. Finally, novel premise. I put this category last because I love these, and I cannot not read pretty much anything that falls into this bucket. In this, I would include The Choice by Gillian McAllister. It would have been a rather straightforward mystery crime thriller with the injection of a sliding doors twist, where we see how her life unfolds in two different scenarios. One where she rushes to get help for someone that she shoved down the stairs when she thought they were attacking her, but it was somebody else, and one where she runs away and lives with the guilt. How about The Second Chance Year by Melissa Weisner? A woman gets a do-over of a full year, but she's the only one who can remember everything that happened that first time around. Similarly, Wrong Place, Wrong Time by Gillian McAllister. This is a time bender for a woman who witnessed her son commit a crime, but then wakes up and it's a day earlier, and she wonders if she can prevent it. This time twister mystery thriller asks if you can stop a murder that has already happened. Similarly, we've got Cassandra in Reverse by Holly Smale. a time twister with a woman who has a chance to go back and fix things, only to see the butterfly effect balloon out of control. Completely different premise is Una Out of Order by Margarita Montemor. I love the premise of this book, that Una is living her life non-chronologically. She wakes up every year on her birthday, not 1 year older, but starting at some random year. Everybody else is going in the regular order, but not Una. There are so many others in this category. These are really my jam. This and courier fiction, but this list is already so long. Let's not forget Life After Life by Kate Atkinson. In 5 Years, Rebecca Searle. Maybe in Another Life by Taylor Jenkins Reid. The Post-Birthday World by Lionel Shriver. The Virgins of Us by Laura Barnett. The Two Lives of Lydia Bird by Josie Silver. There's so many books in this sliding doors multiverse field, and I love them. But I have taken up enough of your time already. If you would like a printed copy of this list, I will have it available. Just drop me an email at miranda@mirandadarrow.com. And if you're interested in more writing information like this, like, subscribe, hit the bell so you get notifications because I add new content every week. So thank you so much and happy writing.